I'm here so I won't get fined.
You think you know sports? Well, you don't know. Well, you don't know Jack. The You Don't Know Jack Show starts now.
Hello and welcome to the You Don't Know Jack Show, and I am your host, Carson, and we are joined today by another writer from the Armchair-All Americans, and that is Andrew Parks. You can follow him on Twitter at Drew3282, and Andrew is a Saints writer for Armchair-All Americans. I believe Andrew is pretty new to Armchair, but good to have you on, and welcome to the show, Andrew.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be on, and just fairly new to the Armchair, but getting in there, starting to do my own articles and writing. Pretty excited about that.
Absolutely. Always good to have more people get into Armchair-All Americans. You can check my work and Andrew's work out on armchairallamericans.com. And you can follow Armchair-All Americans on Twitter and like them on Facebook. And there's all kinds of armchair accounts you can follow on Twitter. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Radio Ruben. So we're going to talk about the Super Bowl, as the Super Bowl just happened, and the question that kind of leaps into my mind right away, Andrew, is this the greatest Super Bowl of all time?
You know, I've seen some people have saying it's one of the greatest. I'm not too sure about that, because a couple I can really think off the top of my head was the Rams and Titans, because it came down to really the last seconds, and one yard away, obviously. And along with that, it would be another. Some people just forget it. The Cardinals-Steelers one, because just so many different plays that switched the momentum and things like that, and then it came down to that one touchdown, that one pass at the end. Roethlisberger to, I think, Antonio Holmes. I might be mistaken on the receiver, but yeah, and so those are two that, as far as I remember seeing, would be, I'd say, is a lot better as far as the greatness. And then there's also the Packers Broncos with Elway getting his first ring. Yeah. That once again went right down the middle, right down to the end of it, and then also the fact that Elway finally got to the top.
Yeah. I think it definitely should be in the top 5 if you think about everything that went on in that game. The fact that it was so close to being one of the worst Super Bowls ever, because it was 28-3 at one point, and then it goes into being one of the greatest ever because the Patriots came back and won. Obviously, if you're a Falcons fan, it's not one of the greatest Super Bowls ever, but if you're just a fan of football, you've got to say to yourself, wow, I just witnessed one of the greatest games I'll probably ever see. And some of the catches that were made, like the Julio Jones catch and then the Julian Edelman catch, both of those catches were just incredible there in the last, I suppose, 5-6 minutes of the game, somewhere in there. It was just incredible. I have never seen those catches and that comeback and all that, just everything that went into that game just was incredible. Definitely a top 5. For me, I'd say it's probably top 2. I'd say the Cardinals and Steelers one was really good too. But I definitely think this is one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, definitely. The comeback in itself makes the game that much more great, because, like you said, down 28-3. They finally scored in the third to cut the lead to 28-9, and then the fact that they rallied so late in the game, while Atlanta's defense just started getting overwhelmed by the plays. Yep. I think it was 93 plays for the Patriots, 46 for the Falcons. You could just see the momentum starting to change, and you can never count out Tom Brady. Yeah. He's one of the greatest players, period, the league's seen.
Yep.
So you can never count him out, along with Belichick.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this game maybe does put the question of who the greatest quarterback and coach of all time is. At least in my book, I think those two are the greatest of all time at their respective spots. I mean, there's obviously been some other really great ones, but there's just nothing like the dynasty we've seen the Patriots put up in the NFL. I don't think for almost 20 years they've been doing this consistently. They've been to 7. They've won 5 now. It's just incredible to be watching as much as teams that don't get to the Super Bowl all the time, like the Vikings and the Saints. Even though the Saints did finally get their first Super Bowl win, we won't talk about that game before that, but yeah, it's just amazing the consistency that happens year in and year out with the Patriots.
Definitely, and as far as I can remember, I guess I'm basically a football historian. I love football, love studying the past. The only thing I can think of close to it was the Packers with Bart Starr and Vince Lombardi back in the 50s and 60s. Some teams have had runs like the Steelers in the 70s, 49ers in the 80s, Cowboys 90s. But you're absolutely right. This 17-year run, as far as the NFL goes, is really unprecedented.
Yeah.
And and people start talking about the greatest quarterback. It's hard to compare each one because different eras.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at stats, overall wins of the quarterback, rings, it is hard to argue that Tom Brady is not at the top.
Yeah. And it's very hard to argue the same with Belichick. But one thing that I pointed out to somebody on Facebook who was arguing about this, yes, I know, Facebook arguments, blah, blah, blah. But somebody was saying that there should be a little bit of hesitancy because of how great Belichick is. Well, I came back with, there's got to be hesitancy with Belichick because of how great Tom Brady is. And that's what's so great about these guys. If you put them together, they form one of the best quarterback-coach duo. Obviously, I think the best of all time. But it's just incredible to watch this and not think that these guys are at least in the top 3, if not number 1. So it's pretty incredible.
Oh, definitely. And as far as they've kind of leaned on each other, really. Because Belichick, when he was with the Browns, wasn't very successful until Bledsoe got hurt. He had a losing record in New England. Mm-hmm. So that just goes to further prove that the quarterback and one with left tackle are the two most important positions.
Yep.
Yes, the Ravens did it with Trent Dilfer, the Buccaneers with Brad Johnson, but they also had extremely good defenses. And as far as Brady goes, who's to say without Belichick, or if he's on another team, that he has 5 rings and some of his other records in the postseason and such. So they definitely complement each other very well. And I mean, the other quarterback teams I can think with coaches like Montana and Walsh, and then Bradshaw with the Steelers and Chuck Noll.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are very, they're very few and far between, because usually if you don't have a good season, or if you don't make the playoffs at least once in 3 seasons, and sometimes it doesn't even take that much. If you make the playoffs one year and don't make the playoffs the next year, you're gone sometimes in the NFL. So it's just amazing how long this organization trusted Bill Belichick before they got into a Super Bowl, which obviously wasn't long after he was hired, but just the consistency is just something to marvel at. And everything these guys have put together, and it just seems like the thing I maybe respect about Brady the most, and I know a lot of people say this, but it is so true, how he does so much with very little talent, or a lot, or sometimes it's been a lot better talent, but a lot of those Super Bowls on offense, he has not had a lot to work with other than Randy Moss and Deion Branch. That's basically all the greatest receivers he's had. I mean, Edelman is pretty good nowadays, but I don't know. It's just impressive to see him do so much with so little. And
actually, you were touching on just now what I was going to say is that, Brady really hasn't had a star wide receiver outside of Randy Moss.
Yep.
He had him, and that was about it. Yes, Deion Branch was a very good contributor to the team.
He's also a person.
And, he won an MVP in the Super Bowl also himself, I believe, he won against the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's had really two standout receivers. Edelman's been good. Wes Welker performed very well with the Patriots and Brady under center. But, you look at the receivers now, I don't think anybody can really name any of the receivers outside of Edelman. But, you have like Hogan, would he be doing? Yeah, would he be doing the same thing on any other team? I highly doubt it.
Yeah, we saw how he did with the Bills.
Yeah, exactly.
And people say, well, they're using them, or other teams were using them wrong and all that stuff. And it's like, well, there's other things that go into it too. If you look at Wes Welker, what did he do after the Patriots? Absolutely nothing. And there's other cases like that too, where once people leave New England, it just goes downhill, at least for a skill position standpoint, like other running backs that have left and all that kind of thing. It's just the way that Tom Brady plays and the way he makes his teammates better around him, I think, is just incredible.
Just like that just goes further also Belichick's resume as far as this greatness level, because all these other coaches, obviously they're good coaches, they have head coaching positions. If they can't figure out a way to use a certain player, and despite being very talented, such as Welker, Edelman, and Belichick's able to utilize them and use them in different ways, he's just smarter than the rest. He game plans better. Everything he can do is basically heads above everybody else. He's basically like Nick Saban in college.
Yep.
You got Belichick right now, and then you have everybody else.
Yep.
And it's just hard to come close to him with what he's done recently. And I don't think I've really ever seen him out-coached.
Mm-mm.
Except for maybe the first half of this past Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But then, the Patriots made adjustments. That's one of the better things he's good at, is being able to adjust things. And he doesn't necessarily have to raise his voice. That team's well run. Mm-hmm. From Robert Kraft on down to the 53rd man on the roster, it's a tight run ship. There's really no leaks, and there's no distractions, and that's also what Belichick's great at. As soon as he sees a player is going to be a distraction, or more or less it's outlived his usefulness, they're gone. Yep. He sees this before anybody else does.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and you can say whatever you want about Robert Kraft, whether he's drunk in his press box or whatever, but he definitely knows how to put together a team.
Oh, very much so. And personally, Robert Kraft's one of the more respected owners by me, because he's classy, and he's been able to put together a team, and again, without really any major distractions. You've had the Spygate and things like that, but as far as that goes, what team hasn't done things like deflating a ball or something? That's probably going on throughout the league.
Right.
It's just nobody's talking about it because it's not the Patriots.
Exactly.
But, you don't see things like players on the Patriots being arrested for spousal abuse or really even drug related charges. He knows how to keep the ship running right. Belichick's right there. Those two are perfect, just like Brady and Belichick are perfect each other. Kraft and Belichick fit perfectly together as well. And it doesn't matter if you're a Patriots fan, if you like them or not, you have to admit it is amazing. Really, since Robert Kraft bought the team in, I believe it was 95 or 94, he's been to now 8 Super Bowls as his owner. And he doesn't seem like he's slowing down at all.
Yeah.
Brady is turning 40. Eventually, they're going to have to change who's going to be under center. There's talk about Garoppolo being the next in line, but there's also talk of him being traded or something along those lines and having Jacoby Brissett step in. Eventually, there's going to be a backslide towards the rest of the group, but at least for the next few years, I don't see it's going to happen.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Jimmy Garoppolo? Should they keep him or trade him, or what should they try to get out of him?
I'm kind of the thought, along with some others in the sports media, I would hold on to Garoppolo just in case something happens to Brady or when he hangs it up, because quarterback is perhaps the most important position on the team. If not them, it's a left tackle for the blindside purposes. But, Garoppolo, he's been in the league, 3 years now, and he finally got a chance to prove what he can do. And he played exceptionally well. So, personally, I would hold on to him. Or the Patriots could do what the Eagles did with Sam Bradford. Go to somebody who's obviously hurting for a quarterback, Browns, Jets, something like that, and demand the highest price possible. And they will give it up because quarterback is so important nowadays.
Yeah. The only thing that is maybe holding the Patriots back from keeping him here into the next season is that his contract is up after this season. So now he's going to be a free agent. So I think that's why Belichick decided to draft Brissett in case Garoppolo doesn't want to stay. And because Tom Brady, it sounds like he wants to play for another 5 years. And or at least people think that he could. And I was one to think that Brady should just retire after this because there's nothing left for him to prove, I don't think. And he's got all the money in the world, and his mom is failing in her health, and that kid that asked him that question got him emotional about his dad, probably reminded him of his own kids. It's like, I don't know, I think Brady could retire, but if he doesn't, then I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to want to go somewhere else.
And that very well could be the case because he's thinking probably, I've shown my worth. I prove I can do this.
Yep.
And who wouldn't want to get out of the shadow of Tom Brady? Because if he stays there, he's going to be compared to, he didn't do what Brady did. He wasn't able to do this.
Yeah.
But, and just like other quarterbacks have, the 49ers, Steve Young went under Montana's shadow. Every quarterback after Dan Marino on Miami, they're going to be compared to one of the previous quarterback as it is, and the fact that he's so great in what he did and has done over the last 17 years. As far as, I wouldn't blame Garoppolo for wanting to leave. And that's one thing that Belichick's also good about with the draft. He usually takes at least one quarterback just in case.
Yeah.
So if Garoppolo were to walk, I have no doubt that he's going to be looking at quarterbacks. It's not going to be like a first or second round guy, probably third or fourth, and that's usually what he's been taking them, or even later. And it's worked out perfect for him. I mean, Brady was taken in the 6th round, and so I have no problem saying they can find another quarterback in there.
So we are going to take a break on the show, and when we come back, we'll actually break down a little bit of the game, and we'll do that after this break. You're listening to the You Don't Know Jack Show. Do you like shopping on Amazon? Well, now you can do it by helping the show at the same time. Go to the website youdon'tknowjackshow.com and click on any of the Amazon links, and then you can bookmark it. And every time you shop on Amazon, click the bookmark. It's the easiest way to support us without any extra cost to you. Now back to the show. And welcome back to the You Don't Know Jack Show. Again, Carson Schubert joined by Andrew Parks. You can follow me on Twitter at Radio Ruben, and you can follow Andrew on Twitter at Drew3282. And, of course, don't forget, you can follow our show on Twitter at Don't Know Jack Show. So both of us write for Armchair-All Americans. I write about the Vikings, and Andrew writes about the Saints. Recapping a little bit still the Super Bowl as we take a look at that here. Andrew, some key plays that you thought made a difference. Obviously, the key ones or the obvious ones are going to be the catch by Edelman and Julio Jones. Obviously, that Julio catches didn't really end up mattering. But what are some key plays you thought happened in this game?
Well, initially, one of the ones would be like when the Patriots are down 28-3, that initial touchdown they scored, they cut to a 19-point game. That had to give them a little boost in confidence and realize, hey, we're still in this game. We can still win this. Well, after that, it would also be the second strip by I cannot think of his name right now, actually. Matt Ryan down when they were threatening to score, which led to more Patriots points. Excuse me.
Yeah, was it Flowers that stripped him?
That's what I was trying. I believe it was
Trey Flowers.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, Dante Hightower.
Oh, Hightower. Okay. Yep.
Yes. And but obviously early in the game, that pick six Brady threw, I'm sure it shocked a lot of people because that's very not like Brady.
I was like, wow. I was shocked. I was still like, well, it's not over yet. We still got a half to play. Or was that in the second half already?
No, that was second quarter, first half still.
Okay, because I was like, yeah, there's still a half to play. I never doubted the Patriots, but if there was a point where I was like, oh, geez, this could be the difference in the game right here. This could be their downfall. Was probably that pick six? But then I was still like, there's still a game out of this yet, possibly. I wouldn't count out Brady and Belichick. Would never do that.
Definitely not. And I was kind of thinking the same thing. I looked up and I saw, going the other way. I'm thinking, okay, is that going to be the end of this? Is that going to be the death knell for the Patriots? They're down. Brady wasn't playing very well at that time. He was putting up some numbers and things like that, but he wasn't putting up what we're used to seeing from him, especially on the bigger stage. Mm-hmm. So, I'm pretty sure there's so many other people who are thinking the same thing. Like, what's going on here? Is this going to be it? The Falcons are going to pull this off? And some people might say this would be as big of an upset as the Giants pulled off against them during that undefeated run, but just because, despite Vegas having a 3-point game, I'm pretty sure a lot of people expected the Patriots to win by more than 3, probably double digits. That's at least the people I talk to, and then, my friends and people I know, they're expecting a Patriots blowout, probably because the Falcons' defense was so porous during the season. But besides that, obviously, the big part was the pass interference late in the game, and then also in overtime, which put the ball down at the 2-yard line. At that point, though, when it got down to that, you could tell the Falcons' defense was gassed. They had been on the field for so long. And then, that first touchdown, 2-point conversion, that's when you really start thinking, well, it's what Brady does. There's a reason why he's one of the greatest. Yeah. And then at that point when they scored that one, I'm assuming a lot of people just assumed, well, it's going to be the Patriots' night. Somehow they're going to do it. I'm not go back to some of the key plays. Obviously, like I said, Edelman's catch, which has been compared to David Tyree's. Yeah. I'm not sure how he pulled that. I don't know how he pulled that in. I mean, there was 3 Falcons around him. Everybody in that case had a shot to the ball, and 8 hands involved. Yeah. Somehow he's able to catch that and hold on to it as he was going down. I'm still trying to figure out how he caught that. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I think I don't even know if science could tell us how he caught that ball. Like, if they try to break that down on sports science, people will still be going away scratching their heads like, huh? What? How? What? I'm still confused.
Definitely. And it was a little bit of a poetic justice for the Patriots because so many catches have gone against them in the Super Bowl. David Tyree. Then the second time the Giants and the Patriots met, I cannot recall who caught that one down the sideline for Manning.
Oh, and was it Manningham?
I think so. I believe that's correct, yes. And then even against the Seahawks, even though they won, there was that one leaping catch where he managed to catch it as he was going down the ground, falling on his back. Yeah. So this Edelman catch, like I said, it's kind of a little bit of justice for them to finally have one of those crazy catches go their way.
Yeah, that's what probably most Patriots fans are thinking. Well, it's about time we had one of those because
undoubtedly.
Yeah, that was incredible. I guess 2 of the things that stick out in my mind, the first thing would be that the Falcons, like after they were up 28-3, I think there was a stat that they ran the ball like less than 5 times, like 3 times or something.
That's correct, yeah.
And that is absolutely unacceptable when you're up by that much. I mean, it's good to stay aggressive, but you don't want to be aggressive the whole time because then you're going to have incompletions, you're going to put your quarterback in bad spots and all that kind of thing. And, You need to get to or keep doing what got you there, and it was the run game plus some play action plus some plays by Matt Ryan. You can't just fully focus on passing the ball. I just think that was very dumb by Kyle Shanahan or whoever was making those calls at that time.
Yes, and I didn't realize they had only ran the ball about 3 to 5 times in the second half, I guess, because Patriots had the ball so much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, early on, at least, they weren't stopping Devontae Freeman. He broke off a couple of big runs on that first possession for the Falcons, or the second one as they punted the first two. But I'm agreeing. You're up 28-3. You know who's across the sideline, across the field.
Yep.
You got to shorten the game. You have to.
Exactly.
And just feed Freeman the ball, let him do his thing. But, like I said, saying aggressive, I understand that, but that leads to so many different opportunities for the defense to either come away with the ball in interception or just lengthen the game and give the Patriots offense more chances to get out on the field, which again led back to the Falcons defense just wearing out from so many different plays being run.
Yeah, there's a fine line between being aggressive and being stupid, and I think that was probably on the stupid end of that.
I think most people would agree with that. It's just one of the things of, yes, they're a high-powered offense. They got receivers that can make all these plays also. But if you're running the ball like you have been in the first half, you're not going to be, the Patriots maybe scored 10 more points in the second half, but you're running the clock down. There's fewer chances. The time of possession is not going to be so lopsided. It was like 2-1 in favor of the Patriots. I'm not sure why they would sit there and throw so much still in the second half, unless they were thinking, hey, it's Brady on the other sideline. We need to still get as many points as we can.
Mm-hmm.
But logic says on that, just run the ball, run it, and pass it when you have to. Yeah,
it just boggled my mind how few times they ran the ball. So, but another thing, too, that I think was quite costly was, I don't know if you remember that one possession where the Patriots were driving down the field and they had multiple times when they didn't convert on third down, but the Falcons, I think, saved them with like 3 defensive holding calls.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Oh, man, that was a big drive, I think, because I think I don't know if they ended up getting 7 out of that drive, but I think they for sure got a field goal out of that drive, and that was just huge because if you take that field goal away, they're not even going to overtime with you, let alone being in at the end of the game.
Exactly. And that was near the end of the first half when the Patriots did kick that field goal, and they finally got on the board. And just the opposite game turning situation. Falcons were had the ball. They were moving down the field after, I believe, the onside kick in this instance. And next thing you have a holding penalty, and then Matt Ryan sacked.
Yeah.
That pushes them out of field goal range. If they were able to even get that field goal, much like if the Patriots didn't get the field goal, you're not going to overtime. You basically have the game locked up. Yeah. But twice the Falcons couldn't do anything marching into the Patriots territory deep into it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a game changer, too. I remember that, too, and I was like, holy smokes, that was not good. And once you saw that holding call and it was like 3rd and 35 or whatever, you're like, there's no way they're picking this up. And you're almost certain that Tom Brady was going to come back on the other side. Actually, when they tied it up, I said to the people I was watching the Super Bowl with, just mainly my family, and I said, you know what I think's going to happen? I think they're going to get the 2 touchdowns. They're going to get one of the 2 2-point conversions, and they're going to miss the other one. But I was wrong to say that. That was my prediction at the end. Towards the end of the game, I thought there was still plenty of time for Brady to come back, but I was like, you know what? I think the Falcons might still pull this out. And I said they're going to miss the 2-point conversion and end up winning, and obviously that was wrong, but it would have been interesting if it panned out that way.
It definitely would have, just because been Brady's third loss in the Super Bowl if the Falcons won it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't discredit the fact that he's been to 7. But yeah, I mean, if they stop even one of those 2-point conversions, it's huge. And then I think just about everybody going into overtime thought, well, that's it. There's the Falcons are not going to win this. It's going to be Brady. And when they got the ball first, I started saying that's game. It's over.
Right. Yeah. Well, no. Even when the 2-point conversion was scored, I was like, "Yep, Patriots are winning." There's like no way they're not going to win after getting that 2-point conversion, because the only way the Falcons would have, the Falcons, I think they should have tried a little bit harder to get into field goal range, and I don't think they did very well. And part of that was also, I think, a big misnomer of this game is the Falcons burned a lot of timeouts that they didn't have to burn. A lot of them were probably very stupid timeouts, and I always remember of people when they burn stupid timeouts, always comes back to me thinking about Cam Newton, because he always takes timeouts that are not very smart. Like they're just stupid communication timeouts. Sometimes he's taking them like back-to-back possessions or back-to-back plays almost, where it's like, we didn't get the communication in or whatever. It's like, those are valuable timeouts that you lose. If you're taking a timeout early in the third quarter, that's more than likely to come back to bite you.
Exactly. And it's kind of like the old adage with basketball, free throws will kill you. You're missing free throws late in the game, that's going to come back to bite you. Same thing with, wasting timeouts. At least try to hold on to a couple of them for late in the game or a half.
Yeah.
I understand sometimes you just have to take one.
Right.
But you shouldn't be burning through them, because, as you said, it's going to come back and bite you. You're going to need that extra time on the clock. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have it. And then, we see them going in overtime. And we all know what happened. So I'm not sure exactly what they were thinking with burning through the timeouts as they were.
Yeah, definitely some head scratchers on the part of the Falcons, and they actually fired a couple of defensive coaches. Their defensive line coach and I think their defensive coordinator both were fired here recently. So, go ahead.
So I hadn't seen that, but that didn't surprise me in the least. Let's see, the first half, that's one thing I was impressed with, is the Falcons were able to get after Brady. Mm-hmm. And then adjustments after halftime, I don't think he was sacked in the second, maybe once. But they were all over him early in the game. And that was pitting the game in the Falcons' favor. You get any quarterback, it doesn't matter. You get people on their feet, they're having to move around, throw off their back foot. Mm-hmm. It's going to affect them. It doesn't matter if it's Brady or Newton.
Well, yeah, you saw it the week before with Rodgers, or 2 weeks before with Rodgers. They got pressure on Rodgers, and he could not deal with it. He got battered and bruised for most of that first half of that game, and the Falcons just really, really put the hurt on Rodgers, blitzing and whatever else, and Rodgers was very uncomfortable. You could tell that. And the same thing with Brady. In that first half, I think the difference in the game was, though, the Patriots made the appropriate adjustments where the Packers didn't.
It appears that way, definitely. And that goes back to Belichick being able to, make those in-game adjustments and changes to what's not going right for them. As soon as the second half started, I'm almost certain Brady wasn't sacked in the second half. I might be mistaken. But he definitely had more time to throw. Having a clean pocket led to better passing lanes. As the Patriots were able to move the ball easier.
Absolutely. So I got a question for you, Andrew. The Falcons obviously are a division rival for you. So were you actually, I'm assuming you were against them, but was there any chance that you were actually cheering that they would hopefully get there first?
Honestly, as far as watching this one, I kind of sat back and watched as a fan. I mean, if the Falcons had won it, I'd be happy for like Matt Ryan, obviously, and also like Jacob Tamme. He was there with Brady in Indianapolis. I like the player. I don't see anything wrong with him. but I can't say that I was not happy that they lost just because, for so long, divisional rivals, usually close games. But like most Saints fans, I was just kind of happy that they lost.
Yeah, there's always that part of you, like last year. Hey, you've had two. Now you've had two back-to-back years where your division rivals have lost in the Super Bowl. Were you a little bit more happy last year when the Panthers lost in the Super Bowl, though?
I was more so happy for the Broncos and the fact that Manning went out like Elway did.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go out on top. Not everybody gets that chance to. So I was more so just happier for the Broncos pulling that out and letting Manning go out on top.
Yeah. Yeah, I for me personally, I predicted the Broncos to win that game last year, and I predicted the Patriots to win this year. So I'm 2 for 2 my last two Super Bowl picks. But I was really annoyed by the Panthers last year, and just the way they celebrated and did all their class photo like things, and it was just so annoying to me. I think they didn't even they were so focused on the regular season that they kind of forgot about the Super Bowl. And I mean, they dominated the Cardinals and all in the playoffs and stuff, but then it was like the spotlight got too big for Cam Newton. And I think Cam Newton's kind of a baby. Personally, I'm not a big fan of him, but it was just kind of bittersweet, or not bittersweet, extra sweet that the Broncos beat them. And pretty badly, actually. I mean, the score didn't reflect it, but they beat on Cam Newton really bad.
And, yes, that game wasn't really as close as the 14-point spread. And I think last year overall people are just happy because they do not really like Cam Newton that much just because of some of the things he does as far as the Superman pose.
Yep.
And things like that. So I think more so there's people who are happy that the Panthers lost last year just because of Cam Newton and himself.
Yep.
And you are right. He does come across as a baby. As far as like earlier this year, this football season, complaining about not getting the calls from the refs.
Yeah.
Well, you got to take into consideration he's a different quarterback. He's a bigger guy.
Yep.
I'm sorry. If you're a running quarterback or scrambler, what do you want to call it, you should expect to get hits.
Yep.
Yes, Brady, Breeze, Rivers, all of them, they get the calls, things like that. I'm not sure if Rivers really does, but pocket quarterback, you figure they got to take a little more precautions as far as protecting them goes. But yeah, I mean, he's complaining about being hit. And I'm thinking, well, don't run.
Yeah.
I mean, when he got his concussion, he didn't, he let up right before the goal line. That's it. That's on him,
Yeah, I don't know why he complains, because half the time he's bigger than the other guy that's coming at him anyway.
Precisely. I mean, he's basically the size of a linebacker.
Yeah.
And it's just, that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. They don't want to see, 245, 250 guy complaining about being hit on the field. You signed up for it. Yeah. You just got to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nothing about race. A lot of Cam supporters will be like, oh, well, you're just racist because you don't like him. And it's like, no, I actually really like Russell Wilson. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. He's a good guy. He doesn't complain a lot, and he's the quarterback that Cam should be wanting to be like. He's good off the field. People think he's a little bit braggy about all the good things he does, but I think he's a good guy, and I think he just does a really good job with what he does, and he doesn't complain, which is something as a coach from Pete Carroll's perspective that you like. I'm not a big Pete Carroll fan, but I think if you're a coach like Ron Rivera, I'd be upset most of the time with Cam Newton and trying to tell him to be quiet. Shut up.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like for somebody to say that to him. And you mentioned Russell Wilson, but also, I'm still disappointed or sad for Teddy Bridgewater up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
You never heard anything about him off the field. He kept quiet. He wasn't very outspoken. Wasn't causing any distractions in the locker room or anything like that. At least not that I can recall. And I really hate the injury that he suffered. Hopefully he'll be able to get healthy and return
Yes.
the game, even though there's a lot of doubt about that right now.
Mm-hmm. There is. And actually, we will talk a little bit about our favorite teams, and we're going to do that after we take one more break. We'll wrap up by talking about our favorite teams. Again, the Patriots continue to just amaze people with their dynasty that they have over there. So we'll see if it continues next year or if Brady retires or not. But we'll talk about our two teams when we come back, and we'll do that after this commercial.
Heading to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Baltimore, New York, London, or anywhere in the world and need a rent-a-car? Well, check out CarRental8.com, where you'll find the same car for less money. CarRental8.com sells all the brands like Dollar, Thrifty, Budget, Avis, Hertz, Alamo, Europcar, and so much more at affordable rates. We'll beat any price by a minimum of 30%. So check us out online at CarRental8.com or call us at 1-813-343-8138. That's 1-813-343-8138.
Use the promo JACSHOW5, that's JACSHOW5, to get 5% off your next car rental. Use all capital letters when you type in the promo code. Now back to the show. And we're back here on the You Don't Know Jack Show, again joined by Andrew Parks. And Andrew, obviously a disappointing season for the Saints in a division that was very winnable for the Saints, other than the Falcons, who actually didn't even finish that great, 11-5. I mean, that's still pretty good, obviously, but nothing like a 13-3 or a 14-2 or anything like that. So definitely was still winnable, and in the NFC, where the playoffs, all they had to do was get to 9-7 to be there, right there with the Lions. So, what are your thoughts on the Saints' season, and what do they need to improve?
Yeah, it really was a disappointing season. I think anytime, going into the season, you have Breeze under center, you got Sean Payton on the sideline, you expect a lot more than 7-9. And this is the third straight year they've gone to this. And the finger is obviously going to be pointed at the defense. Something has to be changed done about the defense. I know they fired 4 or 5 defensive coaches earlier, along with Joe Vitt was the main one. He was assistant head coach also. Sean Payton. He filled in during the Brownie Gate scandal year. Mm-hmm. But the Saints just seem to be missing left and right on defense when it comes to that. They did have a few injuries, but, something has to change after a year of being ranked 30 or 25th rather than lower. They've done the free agent route, which usually has turned out as bust, as evidence with I cannot think of his name actually now, but I just lost the name. But it's one of those things. It seems like all the free agent signings lately have just not panned out very well. Yep. And granted, Nick Fairley played well this year. That was a boost to the defensive line, which, you still need somebody to complement Cam Jordan on the other side. And, linebackers, a couple of the younger guys were hurt a lot of the year. So hopefully, if they, next season they're healthy, they're able to show what they can do. But one of the problems was Joe Vitt also was a linebackers coach, and he never developed any talent. Mm-hmm. And linebackers, you need them. You got to have them grow, learn, get better. And then the defensive backs, it's just a mess. It really is. Devin Breaux, who very well might be the best one they got right now, really, he was hurt all season. They re-signed Roman Harper. He's not the same way he was earlier in the season. Kenny Vaccaro's turned out to be a pretty good defensive back himself. But it seems like overall the players are so inconsistent. Yeah, it's terrible, and they've got to do something through the draft. I would say free agency, but with some of the contracts they have, such as Breeze, it's harder to get somebody, one of the big names, to come to New Orleans because how bad the salary cap situation is. Mm-hmm. I would love to, as a Saints fan, see Breeze take a pay cut or something to alleviate the burden on the Saints salary cap issue. I mean, other quarterbacks have done it, given basically a hometown discount. I know you only have so much time to earn so much money. Right. But a lot of people who I know and talk to and see on Facebook, Twitter, what have you, they all complain about why isn't Breeze doing the same thing that even Tom Brady's done?
Yep.
Why can't he do that to help the team out?
Yeah.
And that sometimes I do wonder myself.
Yeah, and I mean, Breeze has had plenty of time to make a lot of money, and I would say, too, if he wants a last chance at a Super Bowl ring, he's probably going to have to take a pay cut.
I absolutely agree. I mean, as great as Breeze is, it's basically like a Dan Marino situation, but different. Marino didn't have a running game, really. He couldn't do it on his own. Saints can't just continue to rely on the offense and hope to outscore everybody. Eventually, the kid's going to catch up to you, and they've done that the last few years. One was starting off very slow, 0-3 this year. I believe it was 0-3, 0-4 the previous year, and that's just a hole you can't get out of.
Right.
Or slim chances. The Chargers were able to do it. Starting off 0-4, I believe it was, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl against the 49ers, or maybe just made the playoffs. My mistake on that year. But I mean, even still, we're also signing some of the young talent. If Breeze doesn't take a pay cut or restriction of the contract where the cap hit isn't as big, I just don't see the Saints doing anything much in this next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. So I got two more questions for you on the Saints. What do you think of Stephon Anthony? I think he's probably kind of been hurt a little bit this past year, but I thought I really saw some flashes from him last season when he came in from Clemson as a rookie. What are your thoughts on him, and do you think he's a linebacker they can build around?
Definitely think so. Because whenever he was healthy, the defense overall did play better. It's not saying a lot considering how bad it's been, but it's hard not to be better than 30, 31st, 32nd. Definitely has a spot on the defense where they can build around it. He can be a captain on the defense, team leader as far as that goes. I would absolutely turn it over to him and see what he can do as far as leading his defense for the next few years at least. He's one of those few bright spots along with Cam Jordan and the surprising Delvin Breaux from a couple of years ago before this past year he got injured.
Mm-hmm. And my last question is for your running back situation, because I think a lot of your offense is pretty well set. I really like Brandon Cooks, obviously, and you got a couple other receivers to build around. Maybe a tight end would be the absolute last thing you guys would need from a skill position standpoint other than running back. But do you think Melvin Ingram, or not Melvin Ingram? What's your guys' running back again? Is it Melvin?
Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram. I always get those two confused. I always do that. Mark Ingram. Do you think he is the solution for you guys at running back?
I would say starting to seem some more so this past season because he actually seems like he's hit his stride finally. He was injured a lot in the previous couple of years. And he blossomed this year. I know a lot of people still complain about the fact the Saints drafted him. They should have, drafted so-and-so or for this particular position.
Mm-hmm.
But, he finally came out, showed what he can do on a consistent basis. And I don't see why they couldn't grow him off and build around him some going forward. Take the pressure off Breeze. The Super Bowl run, Breeze, the Saints had an excellent running game. They had about 1,800 yards rushing, 2,000, somewhere around that. Breeze wasn't relied on all the time.
Yep.
And it seems lately, due to injuries or one thing or another, everything's been on Breeze's shoulders. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter who you are. You can put up 5,000 yards, 30 some odd touchdowns, 40. It won't matter if you're relying on one person to do everything. There's a great wide receiver core with Cooks, with Willie Snead and a few others right there. But Ingram is going to be was one of the keys. If as much like people say, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have nothing. Well, if you need a running game also, because that sets up the passing game. So definitely Ingram looks like he's finally grown to where he can carry the load for the Saints on as far as the running game goes. And just coming next year, I'm expecting a little bit more out of him, honestly.
Yeah. Do you have any questions about the Vikings for me? Any off-season talk or anything like that? We've talked about that quite a bit on the show, so I don't want to I don't want to blabber on about the Vikings too much, but if you got some questions about the Vikings, fire away.
Well, my main question really is the quarterback situation. Are they going to keep Sam Bradford? If Bridgewater is able to return at some point, and also the offensive line seems just to crumble during the season. Those are the two main points of concerns if I'm a Vikings fan, because the defense seems to be decent enough to be a contender, if nothing else, for a divisional title, getting the playoffs and things like that. But the quarterback and offensive line, those are two glaring spots right there.
Yeah, the quarterback situation is interesting because of Teddy's injury, obviously, and you can debate all day about whether the Vikings made the right move to trade for Sam Bradford, and talk about all the pieces they had to give up, and who knows if Philadelphia will get those picks nailed and the Vikings will be regretting those not being able to have those picks or whatever. But I think from what you were going to get from Sean Hill as a quarterback this year, compared to what you got from Sam Bradford, or even if you would have signed Mark Sanchez or anything like that, I think Sam Bradford did an excellent job compared to what any of those other guys would have pulled off. I would also say that Sam Bradford should be the starter going into next year, because I don't think Bridgewater is going to be healthy for the start of the season. And I actually wrote an article on somebody, I think it was Bleacher Report, that initially blew the story open that Bridgewater will likely miss the entire season. I don't know if I see that as a total possibility. I think there's a little possibility that could happen, but I could see him coming back midway through the season is probably the most likely scenario I would see, because of the whole dislocation of the knee and the ACL tear. But I think for Teddy, if he can come back completely healthy, 100% healthy, and play at the level that he was starting to show, I would rather have Teddy Bridgewater as my quarterback than Sam Bradford, because Bradford has never been over 500 in his career. He's never made the playoffs, and he's never thrown for over 4,000 yards. And I just don't think he's the right guy to have going into the playoffs. Bridgewater made the playoffs last year with a slightly worse defense, and he's only started less than 2 seasons. So people forget that Bridgewater had less than 2 seasons of work in the NFL. So I think Bridgewater still had plenty of potential.
Undoubtedly, as far as what y'all gave up to get Bradford, I would have no problem with it, because you needed a quarterback.
Yep.
Everything else seemed to be in place at this point whenever Teddy Bridgewater went down, and they felt like that this team could make some noise come playoffs and get in there and see what happened. So whatever you can get, at least a B-rated quarterback. I mean, even if it's B-, I guess it depends on who you're asking where Bradford is on that.
Right.
You got to do what you can to get him. Just because, you got Adrian Peterson. Yes, he was out this past year and for a little while. But you get Bradford and Peterson together next season, and along with that defense, assuming it's going to be where it was this past season. Honestly, I expected the Vikings to take the division. They had a chance to. But eventually, injuries caught up to them. The offensive line started basically falling apart, and led to Bradford being hurried a lot. So this coming season, I'll be really surprised if the Vikings don't get into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I actually don't think Peterson's going to be back next year, because he's actually scheduled to make $18 million next year, and for a running back. Even Le'Veon Bell would not make that much money on the open market. So I would say Peterson's probably not going to be back with the Vikings. They're at least going to have to do a reconstruction of his contract. But I just don't see him coming back, because I think the Vikings have had enough of his injuries. He's been injured for most of the last 2 of the last 3 seasons. And the whole going back to 2014 with his scandal with his beating his kid, and there's just a media nightmare that comes with him, a public relations nightmare that comes with Adrian Peterson, at least from the last couple of years, and I just don't know if the Vikings want to put up with that anymore. If I was Rick Spielman, I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, there's plenty of guys who have been able to do things like LeGarrette Blount. I believe Jerick McKinnon is a good back to have, but I think you need a little bit of power to pair with him. And I think somebody like a LeGarrette Blount or somebody like, as I mentioned in one of my articles, Samaje Perine from Oklahoma in the draft, I think would be a good complement to Jerick McKinnon. But Peterson, I just don't see coming back. And again, the trade for Bradford also wasn't just taking into account the 2016 season. It also was taking into account 2017 because Bradford was under contract and is under contract for this season. So that was a big part of that trade as well.
That's always a definite bonus because in that case, you're not renting them out just for a season.
Yep.
You have them under contract for another year or so, or a year, as you said. And then see where Bridgewater is at that point. If he's healthy enough to come back, you can let Bradford walk, or you can keep him just in case. And if Bridgewater's not ready to go yet, you still have him as an option. And I honestly did not know the cap hit for the Vikings with Adrian Peterson. 18 is a lot for a running back nowadays. This isn't the 90s or 80s where it's very run centric.
We're not gonna give away a draft class for him like we did in the past for Herschel Walker.
And I know how that is also with we might be good trading all the Saints picks from Ricky Williams when he didn't need to.
Yeah.
But I actually saw something that Dallas might be making a play for Peterson, which would be interesting to see how he fits in back there along with Prescott and also Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I just don't see how Dallas would want him now. I think he'd be too much for Dallas, at least in their mind, and unless he's content on going there just to win a championship. But he's not going to be an every down back because Zeke is too good. If it was last offseason and the Vikings traded him to Dallas, then obviously they'd probably be all for it. But I just don't see them interested in him as much because they still have Darren McFadden and they still have Lance Dunbar and they still have all these other guys that on their team who will probably take all combined will probably take less money than Peterson's willing to get in just one contract.
Exactly. That's why I'm just curious how that would work. And he's got to realize on the open market, he's not going to get the money that he's probably seeking or even getting right now. I don't see it anyway. He would definitely have to take a pay cut no matter where he went. Mm-hmm. There's if some team's desperate enough, they're going to forego everything, just give him what he wants, no matter what it may cost.
Jacksonville or Cleveland.
Yeah, those two do seem to be the ones that just go after whatever they can. But as far as Dallas connection, the main reason I could see that is because he is a Texas boy.
Yep.
And also, Jerry Jones kind of likes to take some of these players who've had some issues in the past. Greg Hardy,
among others.
Yeah. So that's why I could see him going there, but I'm not sold on it really.
Right.
Because like you said, they have McFadden, Dunbar, obviously Elliott. At best, he'd maybe be the third running back, honestly, because behind Elliott and McFadden, they have less tread on the tires.
Yeah.
McFadden has only injury issues, but I also don't see how McFadden would be content getting fewer carries with the Cowboys as opposed to going somewhere else and being a feature back.
Yeah, that could be too. Obviously Peterson would love to run behind that line, but I really just can't see it happening. I think the Giants could be a possibility. I know they mentioned that at in First Take interview that he did with them. Houston was a possibility too, and Tampa Bay was a possibility now with Doug Martin and his issues that have arisen. So any of those, I could see any of those. Maybe not Houston because Lamar Miller just had a pretty good year, but definitely New York or Tampa Bay would be possible. A little bit better than Jacksonville or Cleveland, at least if Peterson's looking to win a championship or the opportunity anyway.
Absolutely. And as far as the Texans go, they have a little bit of a bigger issue with Brock Osweiler and that contract as it is. I'm not sure what they were thinking, basically signing him sight unseen. There obviously was some film on him in Denver, but, that was just a mistake in itself. So, but yeah, they got bigger fish to fry in Houston.
Yeah. Hopefully nobody makes that mistake with Osweiler or Garoppolo this offseason, signing him to such a huge deal. I mean, I could see him signing a smaller deal, but to give him that much money, I think getting Garoppolo that much money would be a mistake by anybody.
And that's what I think, the danger you go under. Because it seems like the quarterbacks who've gotten big contracts in the past didn't do anything on their new teams.
Yep.
So then you're stuck with this quarterback you've given $15, $20 million to, and you're still sitting at 3-13, 4-12, or what have you.
Yep. Well, Andrew, I appreciate you joining the podcast today, and we'll have to have you on again sometime.
Definitely would love that.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. You have a good one.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Thanks. And that is Andrew Parks of the Armchair-All Americans, at Drew3282 on Twitter, writes for the Saints. He's relatively new, but look forward to his articles. Obviously, seems like he knows a lot about football, and so good to have him on here today. Just some reminders for you guys. You can check out my articles also on armchairallamericans.com, and I also post most of mine and most of my stuff on the website youdon'tknowjackshow.com, so you can check either one of those places out for my recent articles. I haven't posted my latest one on yet about the Vikings dream offseason, but please check that one out on armchairallamericans.com. Search for the Vikings by going to NFL and then checking out teams. Under NFC North, the Vikings are the last one. Also, don't forget to go to our website, youdon'tknowjackshow.com, just to find our shows, articles, pictures, sponsors, and a whole lot more. And also find us on social media. You can like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/youdon'tknowjackshow. You can follow us on Twitter at www.twitter.com/youdon'tknowjackshow, or Don't Know Jack Show. Don't do You Don't Know Jack Show, because it's Don't Know Jack Show. And www.instagram.com. This one is /YouDon'tKnowJackShow. And, of course, if you want to help the show out, you can shop on Amazon with using our links. We post them on our Facebook page and our Twitter page, and you can find them on our website. You can do that. And then if you want to get 5% off your next car rental, you can do that by going to carrental8.com, or you can go through our website and you can find our Car Rental 8 links, and that is on the sponsors page, and that is below the Contact Us menu, I believe, on the website. So please look that up, and if you use the promo code JackShow5, all capital letters, you can get 5% off your next car rental. You can also help the show by going to our Love Us, Help Us page. And that's on our website, and you can fill out a contact form, and we can tell you how to send us a check if you want to help out the show that way. So again, want to thank Andrew Parks for joining us on the show today, at Drew3282 on Twitter, Saints writer for Armchair-All Americans. I believe the boys should be back next week. Kind of funny how that goes, Cowboys fans and all that stuff. The boys will be back. Haha. Anyways, stupid joke. All right, I'm Carson. We'll see you next week on the You Don't Know Jack Show. Thanks for listening.
Hey listeners, don't forget to find You Don't Know Jack Show on Facebook at facebook.com/You Don't Know Jack Show, Twitter at twitter.com/Don't Know Jack Show, and Instagram at instagram.com/You Don't Know Jack Show. You can also follow Carson on Twitter at Radio Ruben. Now back to the show.
Thanks for listening to the You Don't Know Jack Show with Jonah, Aaron, and Carson. If you want to read articles, get more information, or have questions about the show, go to our website, youdon'tknowjackshow.com. You can subscribe and listen to the show on iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio.
I'm here so I won't get fined.